The trauma bay lights were too bright for this hour, harsh, sterile, and humming above the chaos that never really slept. The air smelled of antiseptic and adrenaline. The double doors slammed open as paramedics rushed in a stretcher, and the night shift nurse, Emily Carter, was already moving before the words, "incoming trauma," finished echoing overhead. Male, mid-30s, multiple GSWs to the abdomen and thigh, the medic shouted. Conscious but fading. Name tag says U.S. Navy. SEAL team insignia. Emily's gloved hands steadied the IV pole as they wheeled the patient in. The man's face was pale beneath streaks of blood and desert dust, his breathing ragged. His fatigues were cut open, revealing a tattoo near his ribs, an anchor crossed with wings. BP dropping. 70/40, someone called. Hang 2 units neg. Push fluids, Emily said calmly, voice cutting through the noise like a lighthouse beam. The on-call surgeon burst in seconds later, snapping on his gloves. Dr. Raymond Holt. Arrogant, efficient, the kind who thought emotion wasted time. What have we got? He barked. GSWs, possible femoral nick, abdominal entry wounds, vitals unstable, Emily reported crisply. Get me a full trauma panel, and move, Holt ordered, barely glancing her way. He was all precision and pride, one of those surgeons who believed only the scalpel mattered. Nurses, in his world, were assistants to brilliance, not partners in saving lives. Emily didn't argue. She'd seen too many egos collapse under blood loss and too many quiet heroes die in silence. The SEAL's eyes flickered open. Where am I? You're in a hospital, sir. You're safe, Emily said softly, pressing gauze to his wound. His gaze locked on hers, unfocused but intense. Safe, he echoed, voice slurring. Your eyes, I know you. Emily hesitated. We've never met. He gritted his teeth as a monitor beeped wildly. No, not here, out there, Kandahar, Nightfall Ridge. The room paused, just for a breath. Doctor, Holt frowned. He's delirious. Ignore that and prep him for OR. But Emily's hand froze. Nightfall Ridge. The name hit her like a forgotten melody, sharp and haunting. Few knew it. Fewer survived it. She steadied herself, voice steady. Let's keep him conscious as long as possible. His blood pressure's tanking. Just a nurse, Holt muttered under his breath. Do your job, Miss Carter. She didn't respond. She couldn't. Because suddenly, the years fell away. The desert wind, the screams, the roar of rotor blades in the Afghan night. The sound of men dying as she dragged them through fire. They rushed to the OR. The corridor stretched ahead like a tunnel through time, every flickering light taking Emily back to a place she'd buried deep. Inside the operating room, Emily took her position beside the anesthesiologist, eyes fixed on the patient. His tag read, Petty Officer First Class Ryan Hale. Scalpel, Holt said sharply. Emily handed it over. Her movements were mechanical, precise. She could anticipate every step, because she'd done this before. Not here, out there, without light, without help, with bullets for background music. The surgeon worked fast, his ego shining brighter than his skill. Clamp, retract, suction, bleeding from the iliac, Emily warned, eyes reading the rhythm of the monitors before he saw it. Holt frowned. I said suction. She didn't move. You're losing him, doctor. Right iliac arteries compromised. I know what I'm doing, he snapped. No, you don't, she said quietly, already reaching for the right instrument. Holt's head jerked toward her, but before he could speak, the SEAL on the table groaned, a sound between pain and recognition. Don't argue with her, he gasped. She saved 6 of us. The OR fell, silent except for the monitors beeping. Holt froze, scalpel hovering midair. What did he say? Emily kept her focus, voice calm. We need to clamp now, doctor. The surgeon moved, hands uncertain. Together they stemmed the bleeding. Ryan's vitals steadied by a whisper. When it was over, Holt stripped off his gloves and turned to her. What was that? Some story he cooked up. You're just a nurse. How would he? The SEAL stirred, whispering through cracked lips. She's not just a nurse, she's Nightingale. The word landed like thunder. The anesthesiologist blinked. Wait, the Nightingale, the one who pulled 2 SEAL teams out under fire in 2011. Holt frowned. That was classified military folklore. A female medic who? Ryan's faint laugh cut him off. Not folklore. She's standing right there. Emily removed her gloves slowly, eyes down. Patient needs rest. That's all that matters. She turned to leave, but Holt grabbed her wrist gently, disbelief softening into awe. You were in combat. Once, she said simply. A long time ago. Hours later, the hospital was quiet again. The night shift thinned out, and the adrenaline faded into the hum of monitors. Emily sat by Ryan's bedside in ICU. He was stable now, pale but alive. His eyes fluttered open as she adjusted his oxygen. You remember, she said softly. He smiled weakly. How could I forget? You patched me up with duct tape and morphine shots. Thought you were an angel, or a ghost. I was just doing my job. You were outnumbered, outgunned, and half-burned, he said, voice cracking. You carried me a mile through hell. The guys called you Nightingale because you never stopped talking, kept us awake, kept us alive. Her eyes shimmered, the weight of old memories pressing behind them. That was another lifetime. You disappeared after that mission. Everyone thought you died, she finished quietly. I wanted them to. Ryan frowned. Why? Because people like me don't belong in the spotlight, she said. I saw too much, lost too much. I came home, traded the uniform for scrubs. Saving lives doesn't always need a gun. He reached for her hand, his grip weak but steady. The world still needs people like you. She smiled faintly. The world needs people like you too. From the doorway, drive. Holt watched silently. He'd come to check vitals, but something stopped him, the sight of the hardened seal gripping the nurse's hand as if it was a lifeline. When Emily finally noticed him, he looked away, suddenly awkward. He's stable, he said. Good work. She nodded, slipping out quietly. But the story didn't stay quiet for long. By morning, the whispers had spread. In the staff lounge, orderlies exchanged glances, surgeons murmured behind coffee cups. You know that nurse, Carter. They say she was special forces. Black ops medic. Decorated. No way. Ask the SEAL in ICU. He called her a legend. When Emily walked in, the chatter stopped. She grabbed her chart and kept walking. She'd dealt with worse. Snipers, IEDs, bureaucracy. Gossip was just noise. Doctor. Holt caught up to her in the corridor. Carter. A word. She turned, expression neutral. Yes, doctor. I owe you an apology, he said, clearing his throat. Last night, I underestimated you. I shouldn't have. She raised an eyebrow. It's fine. You were focused on saving a patient. You saved him, Holt admitted. You saw things I didn't. You read the bleed before I could. I misjudged you. Emily smiled faintly. Most people do. He hesitated. Was it true, what he said? Her gaze flicked toward the ICU window where Ryan slept. Some stories are better left untold, doctor. And with that, she walked away, her steps light, the echo of war fading behind her. Days passed. Ryan recovered. Fast. Faster than expected. SEALs, it seemed, didn't know how to rest. But every time Emily entered the room, his usual humor softened into quiet respect. Don't suppose I could convince you to come back, he said once, half joking. I hung up my boots for good, she replied. You could train medics. Teach them what you know. I teach every day, she said. Just in smaller battles. He nodded. Fair enough. A silence settled between them, comfortable, full of unsaid things. Then, as she turned to leave, he said, you know, Doc Holt still doesn't get it. Get what? That being a nurse isn't less than being a surgeon. Emily smiled softly. Maybe he will one day. A week later, the SEALs team arrived to take him home. They came in quiet. Men built like granite, eyes scanning everything. But when they saw Emily, they straightened, almost instinctively. One of them, a tall man with a scar across his jaw, stepped forward. Ma'am, he said, voice thick with emotion. She blinked. Do I know you? He smiled. Not sure if you remember, ma'am. Corporal Lewis. You dragged me out of a Humvee fire outside Jalalabad. Her breath caught. That was years ago. Yes, ma'am, he said. You saved my life. Around them, the hallway fell silent. Doctors, nurses, interns, all watching. Doctor. Holt stood near the nurse's station, jaw tight, eyes wide. The SEALs lined up, each nodding to her, some with tears they tried to hide. And for the first time in years, Emily felt the weight she'd carried ease just a little. Ryan, now in a wheelchair, saluted her. "Ma'am, permission to tell your story." She smiled. "Denied." He chuckled, wincing from his stitches. "Still giving orders, always." As they wheeled him away, Holt approached her again. "You really are something else." "I'm just a nurse," she said quietly. He shook his head. "No, you're the reason people like me get to do our jobs." She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Outside, the morning sun poured through the glass doors, bright, golden, alive. Emily stood there for a moment, feeling the warmth on her face. Somewhere inside her, the ghosts finally fell silent. That night, long after the hospital quieted down, Emily stayed behind to restock supplies. She moved through the halls with the ease of someone who belonged everywhere and nowhere. As she reached the trauma bay, her gaze lingered on the empty stretcher where Ryan had once bled out his story. The overhead light flickered. The hum of the monitors was steady again. A nurse passing by asked, "Hey, Carter, aren't you off shift?" She smiled softly. "Just finishing up." The younger nurse grinned. "You're a machine. I don't know how you do it." Emily chuckled. "Neither do I." When she finally stepped outside, the cool night air met her like an old friend. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed. Life didn't stop. It just kept going. She tilted her head up, watching the stars cut through the city haze. "Nightfall Ridge," she whispered, a name carried away on the wind. And somewhere, she imagined the echoes of a voice she once kept alive in the desert, thanking her, still. She smiled. Then she walked toward the parking lot, another shift behind her, another dawn waiting. Because heroes don't always wear uniforms. Sometimes, they wear scrubs, and carry scars no one sees. And as the doors of the hospital closed behind her, the legend of Nightingale remained exactly where she wanted it, quiet, invisible, alive in the hearts she'd healed. /